mean by the word dementia and Alzheimer's, because people get confused about those, and it's hard to be clear. Dementia is a general, it's a kind of an umbrella term, and it refers to any disease that starts in adulthood, affects two or more aspects of thinking, so the number 2 is important here, and does not affect how alert a person is. So people with dementia are as awake and alert as we are, but they have impairments in at least 2 different aspects of thinking. So that's a very broad definition. And in fact, there are at least 80 diseases that can cause dementia. And some are very rare, but you've heard of some. Lupus can cause dementia, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease. So it's a very long list of diseases that we know can affect the brain, and they all cause those symptoms of dementia, an impairment in 2 or more aspects of thinking beginning in adulthood, but not affecting alertness. So that was even known back in 1900. And so Alzheimer's disease, defined by those microscopic changes, was known as thought to be a very rare cause of dementia. Then in the late 1950s and early 1960s, a doctor in England, Martin Roth, he had been studying senility. And he did what are called epidemiologic studies. He went out in several cities in England and just sort of counted how many people had memory trouble in the community. And at the time, he found that about 5% of people over 65 were forgetful. But he also started working with a pathologist to look at what happens in the brains of people who are senile. Now, I'm sure everyone here has heard that word senility, right? But in fact, it's disappeared. We don't even use it any longer. Kind of amazing. Because when Dr. Roth and his colleagues looked under the microscope, and they finally published this in 1967, so, about 50 years ago, to everyone's surprise, they found the same amount of hardening of the arteries in normal old people and in the forgetful old people. So that was a big surprise, because everyone said, oh, becoming forgetful, that's hardening of the arteries. And everyone just kind of took that as obvious, but couldn't be true if you found the same amount in normal people and forgetful people. The bigger surprise was the difference between the 2 groups. The forgetful people had those plaques and tangles in their brain that Dr. Alzheimer had described way back in 1906. The normal people had very few or none. So all of a sudden, in the late 1960s, people said, wow, what we thought was normal aging, senility, because the word senile just means old, it's not getting old. It's a disease, Alzheimer's disease, that happens to be common in old people. So that's the first revolution. Reconceptualizing senility from just, this is what happens when you get old, to no, it's caused by diseases. And that was a really dramatic change in how people thought about senility.